The first time Amanda told me to disappear, she did it with a smile that clicked like a lid, sealing a jar. Her wedding dress hung behind her like a white flag she had no intention of waving, and my son stood beside her, nodding along as if kindness were something that could be budgeted out of a weekend. I had arranged the flowers, folded the napkins, and tried to keep the peace. They offered me silence first, then eviction. The word stung, yes, but what surprised me was not the pain. It was the clarity that followed it, clean and bright as new glass. My name is Dorothy, and 3 years before that moment, I sold the Victorian house. My late husband, Robert, and I had restored board by stubborn board. I gave Michael and Amanda the down payment for their dream home, $87,000, my life's careful saving the dollar amount of a mother's faith. They swore I would always have space, there always be part of their family, and for a time I pretended their promises were foundations poured in stone. I moved into the guest room 6 months before the wedding, helping with the never-ending list of improvements that money makes possible: granite that glowed in the afternoon cabinets, fitted to the inch-light fixtures, Amanda swore would make her friends gasp. I cooked Sunday dinners. I learned where the dishwasher liked to stick. I told myself the guest room felt like mine even when Amanda winced whenever I called it that. The day before the ceremony, the house smelled of roses and hairspray, and my son's voice cooled to the temperature of a courtroom. "This is our special weekend, Mom. Your negativity is ruining it." My negativity was suggesting swan ice sculptures were a touch much for a country club ballroom. "Where exactly am I supposed to go?" I asked, and Amanda, eyes on her manicure, said a hotel, a sister's, anywhere not here. When Michael cleared his throat and called the place more Amanda's house now because she had handled the finances, something in me clicked into alignment like a gear finally catching the tooth it had been hunting for. "You're right," I said. "I should go." I packed without slamming a single drawer. The quiet let me hear their plans float up from downstairs yoga studio, home office, both of them mapping the square footage of my absence. Robert's photo watched from the nightstand, a familiar kindness held behind glass. I touched the corner of the frame. "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'm not going down without a fight." Then I carried my suitcase past the dress and the flowers and out to the car purchased with a trade-in and a budget. I have always been good at math. In the front seat, I dialed the one person who had worried for me with the patience of a metronome, my lawyer, Margaret Chen. "Dorothy." She said it's Saturday evening. "Is everything all right?" I told her the story, the edited version, without the way Amanda's lips pinched when I breathed too loudly. Margaret listened, and her typing sounded like rain. "Dorothy." She said at last that money was not a gift. It was a loan secured by your name on the deed and the mortgage. 35% ownership. Amanda never signed the acknowledgement. I warned you, remember? But the county recorded your interest. It's binding. I could see Amanda in the kitchen window showing someone her veil on a video call, her gestures big enough to swat away reality. Hypothetically, I asked what happens if I want to sell my share. "You can force a sale," Margaret said. "They may buy you out first at current market value, and if they cannot, then the house is listed, the proceeds divided according to the deed. Prepare the notice," I said. "Deliver it Monday morning." "Are you sure, Dorothy, I used to confuse kindness with sacrifice?" I told her. "I'm learning the difference." Before heading to the hotel, I made a second call. Sunset Gardens Country Club answered on the second ring. "I need to cancel tomorrow's reception," I told the coordinator. "The contract is in my name. The deposit is my card." She hesitated the way people do when they are about to tell you what you should care about. "There are 200 guests expecting dinner." "That sounds like a problem," I said, "and problems are for the people who cause them." I authorized the cancellation fees, checked into the Hampton Inn across town, and ordered room service like someone who had finally remembered she could. At 11:47 p.m., my phone began to vibrate across the nightstand. Amanda's voice arrived at a shriek that bent into a plea, and Michael's followed with logic sharpened into accusation. "You can't cancel our wedding, Mom." "I didn't," I said. "Your vows are free. The party that cost $14,000 is not." A silence followed that sounded like someone finally adding, "Did you think the flowers, the band, the photographer materialized from fairy dust? We can't tell 200 people there's no reception," Michael tried. "McDonald's caters now," I said, not out of cruelty, but relief. My words no longer begged permission to exist. They accused me of vindictiveness. I named the thing I had tolerated financial abuse dressed in gratitude's clothes. "You have trained me to hand over cash and accept crumbs of affection," I said softly. "That training is over." By midnight, the calls came in waves, panic turning their sentences to foam. I turned off the lamp and sat in the lit dark of the hotel room, calm as the space inside a bell after the strike. Behind my calm was a ledger, 3 years of little emergencies I had bridged with my checkbook grocery runs, disguised as bonding online bill payments I made before late fees hid all of it invisible, because invisibility is the first demand of the ungrateful. I had been a net they never saw until I pulled it away. Across the room, the muted television showed a movie wedding where everyone made up in time for cake, and I realized that for the first night in years, I would sleep without bracing for the next ask. When the phone rang again, I let it buzz out on the table. Boundaries make their own music. Mine sounded like peace. Morning found me at the little desk by the hotel window, coffee steaming at 7:30 a.m. The quiet so complete I could hear the soft hum of the ice machine down the hall. My phone face down all night bloomed with missed calls and messages, the way mold blooms in a damp corner, fast, fuzzy, opportunistic. I let them sit. The wedding was scheduled for 2 p.m., and somewhere across town, Amanda would be rehearsing outrage in the mirror while Michael practiced the tone men use when they want to sound rational as they move money around in other people's lives. I ate eggs, read the paper like a person with time, and let the satisfaction arrive in measured breaths. Taking control doesn't always feel like fireworks. Sometimes it feels like buttering toast without your hand shaking. At 9 a.m., a knock rattled the peephole. Michael stood in the corridor in a tuxedo shirt that looked slept-in, eyes rimmed with the color of bad decisions. "Mom, please," he said, and I opened the door but kept my body angled so he had to stop at the threshold. "Shouldn't you be pinning boutonnieres? It's falling apart," he said, stepping past the boundary anyway. "Amanda's locked herself in the bathroom. Her mother is threatening to fly home. Now, you destroyed our wedding." "No, I said I removed my funding from your party. You're still 2 adults with vows and a license." His shoulders dropped the first admission that his script had lost its place. Over what mom sleeping arrangements sit, I told him, and he did. "This isn't about a bed. It's about 3 years of teaching you that my love is measured in transfers and that my presence is a nuisance you tolerate until the check clears." He started to protest, then stopped, as if the words themselves had found their way to a mirror. "Yesterday you agreed the best gift I could give your family was to disappear," I said. "You will get your wish, but I am taking my 35% with me." He blinked like I'd switched languages. "You can't own part of our house. We bought it, with my $87,000, I said, and with my name on your mortgage and your deed." The legality of it registered in his face the way a distant wave registers under a swimmer. First curiosity, then alarm, then the certain knowledge of being carried. "You planned this," he whispered, and for a moment I almost laughed. If I planned this, would I have paid $14,000 for a reception for people who told me to vanish? He rubbed his forehead. "What happens now?" "Now you buy me out at market value, or we sell and split the proceeds." "But we can't afford that," he said. And for the first time, we sounded less like a team and more like a rope tying 2 people to the same sinking weight. The hotel phone rang. I answered to a bright voice from Sunset Gardens. "The bride's mother is on the other line," she said. "She'd like to cover all costs if you'll reinstate the reception." Michael's gaze leaped to mine like a child's eyes to a lifeguard. That's generous, I told the coordinator, but inappropriate. I canceled an event I paid for. I won't shift the burden to a third party to undo consequences. Please send the final bill here. I'll settle it today. When I hung up, I saw panic settle into my son's posture like a second spine. Amanda's mother is willing to pay $14,000, he said. How nice for her, I replied. Too bad her daughter couldn't manage basic civility toward the person who paid the first time. He left with his phone already dialing, and by noon the local news had found the country club steps. On mute, the screen showed a white dress and a veil trembling in a wind that wasn't there. Amanda's sobbing mouth blurred by tears she might finally have to own. The footage didn't name her, but entitlement photographs. Well, you can almost hear the demands through the pixels. I was lifting my fork when a woman about my age stopped at my table, gray hair, perfectly arranged kindness, around the eyes that didn't look performative. Dorothy, she asked gently. I'm Barbara Haworth, Amanda's mother. May I sit? I gestured to the chair, bracing for strategy and getting instead gratitude. Thank you, she said, for showing my daughter a mirror. I waited. Amanda has been cushioned her whole life. Barbara went on in the low voice of someone unwilling to perform for the room. Every tantrum rewarded, every failure reframed. I offered to pay only for the sake of guests. I do not condone what she said to you. If she wants a life, she can learn to live within it. She sipped her coffee, then fixed me with a look that understood more than it asked. What's your end game? Dorothy force the sale offer. Mercy keep the steak and let it sting. I told her the truth. I don't know yet. Part of me wants justice clean as paper. Part of me remembers Michael was once a boy who fell asleep on my shoulder after losing a soccer game. Please, Barbara said, don't soften the impact. Rescuing her is how we got here. By 3 p.m., my phone buzzed with a different sort of crisis. Detective Rodriguez, Virginia Beach Police, his voice calm as a lake. We received a report of possible financial elder abuse and cognitive decline, he said. Someone requested a welfare check. The ice in my water cracked like a knuckle. I can assure you I'm lucid detective. In fact, I have never been more so. I understand, he said, but policy is policy. Can you meet me tomorrow morning? I agreed. And when I ended the call, fury arrived not as heat, but as purpose. If Michael and Amanda wanted to weaponize concern, they would discover I have the receipts. I spent the evening with a pen and printer turning 3 years of invisible generosity into paper that could be stacked and labeled, bank statements that showed transfers every time their accounts dipped into red, card statements with utility payments I had made just this once, checks for car repairs, insurance, and groceries. Nobody photographed for social media because gratitude doesn't trend. The numbers added into a sum that sat heavy in the room, $37,000 in small rescues on top of the $87,000 for the house and $14,000 for a party that now existed only as wilted peonies and a news clip. I slid everything into a tidy folder, set my alarm for 8 a.m., and slept like a person who finally trusted her own spine. At 10 a.m., I walked into the police station with the neutral face older women are trained to wear when they need to be believed. Detective Rodriguez was younger than I expected, steady-eyed his patients a tool rather than a posture. He asked careful questions. I answered with documents. We listened together to a voicemail Amanda had left at 3 a.m. Her concern as sharp and performative as a stage cry. When he finished reading the deed and mortgage copies, the detective closed the folder and leaned back. Mrs. Mitchell. I'm closing this as unfounded, he said. But if you ever need resources about real financial abuse, I can connect you. I smiled and meant it. I think I finally know the difference, detective. On the drive back to the hotel, Michael